It's one of the hardest things because in the moment, a lot of times, if a child is already dysregulated, there isn't a lot that you can do, and whether it's wear a helmet or use some kind of, arm restraint, or it's just really not the solution most of the time. And there's a model called zones of regulation that I like because it has a visual representation of a green zone, just like stoplights, green, yellow, red, a green zone being you're very well regulated, just like you and I are right now. We can talk about things. I could say something, I hope, a little inappropriate, or you could too, and we give each other the benefit of the doubt, and we tend to move on and maybe even support each other. Or if, somebody said something where they were a little frustrated, you might be able to help bring them back. So that's a green zone. Yellow is when you're a bit dysregulated, but you're not yelling, screaming, in self-injury, tantruming yet. But you're closer in yellow zone. I always tell people, think of like driving in a traffic jam in the Bay Area, about to go over the bridge in a rainstorm. And then that's when somebody chooses to give you advice about driving. Like it doesn't take much to kind of get you mad, in that kind of a situation because you're maxed out already. And so many kids we see, and the kind of dynamic that we try to work through with parents is to recognize yellow zone behaviors and then to act when they're in that zone and to help kids find an off ramp. Meaning if it's just 5 minutes of a break, or everybody's quiet for 5 minutes, or we step outside for 5 minutes, initially, almost always that coping has to come from parents, caregivers, teachers, therapists that can recognize when a child's starting to get dysregulated. But within that model, when I see a child starting to be dysregulated, or any therapist, parent, or teacher does, and you start to give a child that language, are you starting to get frustrated? You look so angry, buddy. You're getting mad. Let's take a break. Are you ready for a break? I'm going to stop talking. And I see parents do it all the time intuitively that are good at it because they know, like, can't be, loud laughter in the room will upset a child, for example, and we'll laugh loudly and then we'll take it way down for a couple of minutes, and wait, and that's where I think we're most effective. If I'm being honest, I know that when you're driving and your child's throwing things from the back seat at you and hitting themselves, that you want a solution right then. But the solution really is to pull over and get to safety and to think through what the triggers were, and to be as intentional as possible, about either avoiding them or building some skills so that frustration tolerance, so that ride that you need to take every day can be a little more well tolerated. And that just takes time, and it's part of why when we see families that are in real crisis, sometimes we really have to chip away. It might be, 6 months, 12 months later when we see a real significant change. And we certainly prescribe medicines. We know that there is a group of medications called neuroleptics that can be helpful in children that have self-injurious behavior, property destruction, or aggression defined as, hitting, kicking, punching, biting, scratching, real physical aggression. And we certainly will use those at times to get through a period of time as we build skills, because it can help with regulation, and maybe think of it as expanding out your yellow and green a little, and maybe, making it a little harder to get to the red zone. But we want to stop, those medicines when we can too, because they have a number of side effects.